if the weather shifts and you're saying to them like, "Oh my God, the clouds are coming in. Oh no,"
Yeah.
then they will already get the expectation of the photos won't turn out so good.
Hey, Photo BFFs, and welcome to another episode of the Edit Weekly. I am Amanda from Seattle.
And I'm Whitney from Minneapolis.
And today we are thrilled to welcome Ánne Kátjá, an award-winning portrait photographer based in Northern Norway, who just told us it's minus 11 degrees there right now. So cold. With over a decade of experience in the photography industry, she's mastered the art of capturing stunning portraits in even the most challenging weather conditions. Her philosophy is simple yet powerful. Great photos aren't about perfect lighting or expensive gear. They're about mindset, composition, and guiding clients with confidence. Ánne Kátjá now shares her expertise with fellow photographers, helping them create timeless images regardless of the elements. So in this episode, we will dive into how to prepare clients mentally for outdoor sessions, how to see opportunities in imperfect lighting, and how to build a mindset that transforms challenges into creative triumphs. So thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate you coming over
Thank you for
at
having
7
me.
p.m. your time,
Yes,
10
I'm so
a.m. my
excited to be
time.
here today.
So thrilled to have you here. And I am really excited to learn from you. Me being in the Seattle area, we literally have not seen the sun for like 2 or 3 days right now. We have this storm coming through that has flooded a ton of different areas. There's a bunch of schools that are closed today too.
Wow.
It is a whole thing. So this is not a foreign experience for me to be stuck with weather conditions that are not ideal. So I am really excited to learn from you, and with Whitney being in her snowy area there as well in Minneapolis. I just think that this is going to really resonate with our audience who is kind of scattered out like most of the United States, some Canada, and then some other countries too. So I'm really excited. So thank you for coming on today.
Yay.
So I want you just to start with your path to photography. I feel like this is always so interesting to find out how people made their way to the photography field.
Yeah. Oh my God. My path to photography started when I was a kid. I think I was like 12 years old, and my uncle was working as a journalist, and he had a Nikon camera, and he let me use it. Like, he was like, "Do you want to try it?" And something just happened when I got the camera in my hand and started to take photos. It was like a whole new world open up for me. And after that, I started asking my mom and dad, like, "Please, can I get a camera? Please, please, please." And then after a while, I got a camera. And so I got a Nikon camera, and I still have Nikon today. And yeah, so it really just started with me taking a lot of photos of my little sister. She was like my model.
That's perfect.
Yeah, I took her outside all the time and took photos. And it after a while, I started getting paid for photos to do portraits for people, and like wedding portraits for my parents' friends and etc. And then it has been like sort of a side gig for me for a lot of years throughout my studies and my college and my bachelor's degrees. And then it started to take like a bigger part of my work life. And now I am full time in my company with photography. So it has been a long journey with a lot of experiences, like both really great experiences, but also some negative experiences as well.
Part of doing photography,
Yeah.
it's not all sunshine and roses.
No, definitely not. I feel like I don't think we've talked to a single photographer or interviewed anybody that really had their straightforward path where nothing went wrong. It went exactly according to plan. I think everybody's definitely had those hiccups in theirs. But that's so amazing that I love that you started out with a Nikon to like play around with it, and then you're still with Nikon.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
started out with a Minolta, and I definitely did not stick with that brand. So I think that that's kind of
Do
fun that
they
you
even
actually,
do?
I don't even know if Minolta
Yeah.
exists anymore, but yes. Anyways, I just love the fact that it's been Nikon the entire time.
Yeah. Very loyal.
I love it. Okay, so I want to talk about your marketing because I found you over on Instagram, and I just felt like you did an amazing job really kind of putting the message out there that we don't always get golden hour. We don't always get this amazing light, and that shouldn't stop you from taking pictures. That shouldn't stop you from making art and working with clients. And it was just, I don't know, it was one of those things where I was like, well, I don't know if really anybody is talking about this much. A lot of photographers really talk about, let's get your client to be there for golden hour. Let's get the client to work with the hours that, you want for ideal lighting situations. I haven't heard a lot of the point of view of, hey, let's figure out what time works for your client and let's make that happen no matter what the lighting conditions look like. So in your marketing specifically, you emphasize the importance of guiding clients with confidence. So what are some effective ways you establish trust and set expectations with clients before the shoot, especially when dealing with the unpredictable weather conditions?
Yeah. So when you want to do photos in different weather conditions, it is firstly, I think it's very important that you show those kind of photos in your marketing, like before somebody even books with you. Because if you only showcase like golden hour photos, nobody really wants to have like the cloudy photos when all they see are the golden ones, right?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
So that is like the first point, to show more of a variety in your photos, in different lighting conditions, and then to guide clients in whether that is kind of tricky or bad. It is very important to really reassure them that they're in good hands with you. And what I always do and what I always say to my clients is that it is my job to come up with the poses and tell them what to do and where to be and where to look and where to put their hands. Like, they don't have to talk. They don't have to think about those things at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep repeating that from before they book with me to after they book with me, before the session, when I meet them. Like, I say it all the time until I'm so sick of saying that, because
That's good.
that is what I've found that is like the key to get them to, let down the guard and just to relax more and to be more comfortable in front of my camera when they realize that they don't have to be like models or feel super photogenic to get really pretty photos, because it's our jobs as photographers to make them look and feel pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. And I love that you repeat that before, like when you first meet with them, like saying it over and over again, because I honestly have never been that consistent when I share that. And so sometimes during a session, I'll get people, oh, what do I need to do? So I love that you're doing everything before, so they're not even worried about it at the session. I think that's such a great idea.
Yeah. And another thing that is really important when you are working in conditions that shift, whether that shift is to be open for the possibility with your clients. So you can say to them, if the weather shifts, that is okay, because I'm comfortable taking photos in any light, and I know that I can frame you or position you differently in according to the light, so you will get the great photos either way. So always like try to reassure them that it's fine if the light shifts or the weather shifts, then we'll just make the best out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the weather shifts and you're saying to them like, oh my God, the clouds are coming in, oh no, then they will already get the expectation of, the photos won't turn out so good. So instead, you're going to say things like, this is going to be great either way, because if there's clouds, you will get a really even light on your face and it will look like a filter. You can say you can say examples of things that will make them look better in the light that's coming in.
I like
that.
that.
Is also,
yeah, because I feel like that is one of the things most people are concerned about, especially if you are a parent that has put together this photo session and you're like, oh my gosh, like we've got the clouds coming in. And it's so funny. I think that we take it for granted that we realize clouds are really great, how they diffuse the light so well. I find so many people that are being photographed don't truly understand that that is the case. They think, oh my gosh, it's not sunny and bright outside. I don't want to photograph in the clouds, where I'm like, please give me some clouds. Like, this is such beautiful lighting and everybody's got that even skin tone going on. There's, not as many harsh lighting directions that have to like try to combat with a reflector or getting them to open shade. So I love that, like just kind of giving them those prompts and reassuring them and telling them specifically like, oh, these clouds are great. This is wonderful. How about the opposite of that? Because I'm thinking myself, when the clouds come in, I love it. It's the bright sunlight that can be so harsh and create those really harsh shadows. So with something like that, what sort of like prompts or verbiage do you use when the sun comes out versus the clouds?
So when the sun comes out, when you're photographing during noon or midday,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really sunny, it's really bright, your clients will probably be, worried about having to squint their eyes and getting like those harsh shadows
Uh-huh.
on their face. But the trick I always use when it's full sun is that I turn them around. So I photograph backlit.
Mm-hmm.
And in full sun, it is very, very important to place the sun directly behind your subjects. Because when the sun is so high on the sky,
Mm-hmm.
and if the sun is a little bit on the side, you will have the harsh light and the lens
Yeah.
flare coming in. So with full sun, this is something that always surprises my clients because they're always thinking about the harsh shadows and squinting eyes. And when I turn them around, they're asking me things like, oh, wouldn't these photos be like really dark? Because when they do iPhone photos, it looks
Yes.
terrible, right? So then I can just like say to them, like, I have some magic tricks with my camera and my settings.
Uh-huh.
And they're often very surprised on the result that they're getting those glowy and bright photos that you can also get during golden hour. So
Yeah. And if
backlit
you're
is the key.
It is. And if you are listening to this, make sure you go look at Anne's Instagram and you will see I saw a reel that you did where you were, I can't remember it exactly, but you were showing like all these beautiful photos that you got in these different situations, like the full sun, and you did it by putting the sun behind them. And I think that for me, I still remember when I was like first starting to shoot weddings, that learning that trick, because of weddings, especially, you cannot reschedule a wedding for lighting. You have to know this stuff. And it turned out that so many of these bright sunny days I loved because you can do silhouettes. You can have it, have their skin just like when they're backlit and their skin is like all bright and even with it, coming around their hair. All of that is so beautiful. And you have so many beautiful examples. So make sure you go look at that and see what she's doing to kind of get these beautiful images. And then you're also now letting your clients know that this is what you're doing. So they're not worried and they're not stressed about it.
I think that's so, so key. And like you said, showing people ahead of time, that way they know what to expect and they see the work that you produce. So they don't have that false expectation that, oh, I'm only going to get these golden hour, like glowy portraits. This is what I should expect. Like, no, look at all these other varieties that there are depending on, what weather we get. And we can make it all wonderful because you're the subject. This is what we're concentrating on. The weather just happens to be the background player here.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like there's been a shift in the industry or the buyers, the mindset, they want more kind of real life moments now, I feel, rather
Yeah.
than, the perfect
Mm-hmm.
portraits. They want their memories from their life when they happen. So for new photographers and for photographers in general, it is really good to learn how to photograph in different weather and to feel comfortable with it, because that's gonna get you a big advantage of being a versatile photographer and being able to go out and photograph at the environment as it is.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Okay, so I didn't prep you for this one, but I want to know as we're talking about this. So I know you use Nikon, but what other gear do you use when you are out photographing?
So I actually don't use anything else other.
Okay.
I only use my camera and my lenses.
Okay.
So before I use a reflector, especially when photographing backlit. But I experienced that it was so harsh on my clients,
Okay.
especially photographing in at noon. So I
Mm-hmm.
actually stopped using that, and I don't either use flash in full sun. So it's all
Wow.
natural.
That's so amazing. Well, and that's so nice too, because I feel like a lot of the beginning photographers as well, you don't always have a budget to be spending on a lot of different items too. So to know that they can go out there and create images like this in full sun, in clouds, in different weather conditions, just with their camera and their lens. What's your go-to lens, or what are your favorite lenses to use when you're photographing?
I mostly used my 85 millimeter for portraits, and I also use 35 millimeter. And both of them they have an f-stop at 1.8. So it's not like the best lenses or not the most expensive lenses, but they work beautifully in daylight.
Oh, I love that. That's
Yeah.
so wonderful. I mean, the 85 to me is like so gorgeous. It's like my favorite
It really is.
lens. It is just beautiful, and I feel like you have so much versatility with that one as well, and really able to like blur out your background and just get so I don't know, just get to me. It's just the most beautiful portrait lens. I don't have one yet. That's like been coveting one. I always rent one when I need to. Use it. But yeah, I'm always so curious to see what gear people have. And I feel like that's a question that a lot of new photographers have as well is what gear do you use and what are your favorite or go-to lenses? What brand or sorry, you got the Nikon, but what model Nikon do you use?
Now I have the Nikon, what is it called in English?
I'm putting you on the spot.
You don't have to say it in English. It's all mixed up. We can. I
Sorry,
know.
it's the Z6 II.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had the Nikon D 850 before, and then I got to the mirrorless version.
That's
Okay.
I was about to ask if that's the mirrorless one. I'm
Yeah,
always so
yeah.
curious to see how many photographers have switched over to mirrorless at this
Yeah.
point. So
Yeah. But I still use my other lenses. I just bought like a converter thing for my camera, so it
Okay.
works really well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And you like to talk about how this doesn't have to be expensive. Like you don't have the best lens. And this is something we share all the time because you feel like a lot of times in the photography community, people are constantly saying, oh, you have to get this new camera or this new lens for it to be the very best. And when I started photography, I had like one of the very first Canon digitals. I had a Canon 10D and it was 8 megapixel. I have printed 30 by 40 canvases from that. We even had an episode where I showed it that are beautiful. And so you don't have to have the best and you don't have to spend a lot of money. And you can, when you're starting, that's what's so great about the accessibility of photography now is that you can start with the little that you have. And then as you start to make more money, you can like build up to that. And so I love that this is what you're sharing with people because I think it's realistic, really.
Yeah,
Right?
it's all about like how you use the equipment you have and what you choose to include in your framing. It's always so funny, like when I take photos with my iPhones and I share them with my friends, and they're like, "Oh, how are your iPhone photos so good?" And I'm like, that is because I know how to utilize it to get the best photos.
Yes.
So it's not like you can have the best gear in the world, but if you really don't know how to use it, then it's not going to take you so far.
Exactly.
Yes. But we just recorded an episode where we were asking, like Amanda and I were asking each other kind of hot button questions. And I think we literally said that about like if the camera makes the photo and it doesn't. So we totally agree with you.
Yeah, it's the person.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, you can be a picture taker. There you go. Or you could be a picture maker. And to me, that's a very different thing when you have the skills and the knowledge and the lighting and the practice. I mean, so much of it is just getting out there and practicing and working with that. I feel like, especially when you're starting out and you are unsure about lighting conditions and you want to get better at photographing in them, there is nothing that beats going out there to just practice and just getting somebody to pose for you, getting your little sister to come out
Yeah.
and pose for you in all these different lighting scenarios. Just the practice is what's going to help so much, and just keeping at it and working on your composition. And yes, it's not the camera that takes the pictures, it's the photographer that does.
Yes. And this is like not a question that was on the list, but I wanted to ask you because I know that you are from a family of reindeer herders. And I noticed that you have a fine art store on your website and you have photos of reindeer. Those are the ones that like I was drawn to. And so I'm curious, one, if you used to with your sister, would you practice with the reindeer and doing wildlife photography? I've been doing a little more of that for myself just for fun. And then Yeah, I guess that would be my main question is like, would you practice, or was that something that you decided to do later on to have in your fine arts store?
Yeah, so when I started with photography, I photographed a lot of portraits, but also a lot of our dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I really love animals, and then also with the reindeer. So I have like thousands of photos of reindeer and wildlife and landscape. And I really, when I think I was 14 at the time, and I took a reindeer photo. It was really cold. It was minus 30 Celsius degrees.
Wow.
So you have like the foggy,
Mm-hmm.
moody vibe, and
Mm-hmm.
with the reindeer. And I applied to like a talent show for kids with that photo, and it actually got me all the way to the national competition in
Oh,
Norway.
that's
Yeah,
so cool.
That is
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. And I did not have a good camera at all, or lenses or whatever, but I had the eye, and after that I realized like, okay, this is something I can be
That's
good at.
yeah.
Wow, that's so cool.
That's
Yeah,
amazing. And I love that
yeah,
you like just had the confidence too to even submit, because I
yeah.
know that can be a hard step for photographers to actually like getting your photos out there. And
Mm-hmm.
you did, and you went so far at, you said age 14.
Yes.
Amazing.
That is really, really
Congrats.
cool,
Yeah,
Yes.
right?
thank you. Yeah, I honestly really love like nature, and
Hmm.
that is also why I use a lot of nature in my photos, because I think we as photographers, we are so blessed to be able to, visually take photos of the nature, because it's just so wildly beautiful. And
Mm-hmm.
I always want to honor it and honor our planet. So I use nature as a big element in all of my portraits. And that is kind of my signature style, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Oh, I
love
love
that.
that. Oh, so good.
I'm like sitting here, I'm like, I have so many questions for you, just even about like nature photography, but I know that's not our focus today, because that's what I've been doing so much of, is like in Minneapolis there's actually a lot of nature here, even though we're in the city, and I live next to a like bird sanctuary, and we have like deer, and right now we have swans in our lakes, which is
That's so
wild
cool.
to me, like right by the city. But it's such an important thing to document. And it's so interesting because we have to learn to live with nature and take care of it, or, it's not going to be around forever if we don't. So, yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna
Yes.
pivot
Go,
and go back
go
to
ahead,
I know, I was like,
Amanda.
I'm like,
We'll get
how
back
do
on
I make
track.
a smooth segue? I can't. I'm just gonna go ahead and say, I'm gonna pivot. Oh, I want to go back to the client relationship. So you've talked a lot about what you say to the client beforehand and during the session. I'm curious, after the session is over, how do you continue to nurture the client relationship?
So after a session, I usually send them a DM or an email based on what they prefer in their communication with me. And I always thank them for their session. And I tell them how much I love the photos and what was the thing I loved specifically. And then
Mm.
sometimes for portrait sessions, I can send them like a screen photo of my Lightroom, so they can, get a sneak peek on the photos, which they really love to see. And for weddings, I always send sneak peeks like the day after the wedding, so
Oh,
they can use them
yeah.
to post on social media, because usually the first post they make after getting married, that's the one that's going to get the most likes and
Yeah,
comments.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly.
it's really good for us photographers to use that possibility to get our names and our photos out there,
Yeah,
to
like
Yeah.
really
get
good
like free
marketing.
marketing. Yeah.
I think that's so great. And I love that, like, you're really capturing it, because I think that there is so much now with, the love-hate relationship with social media, but it is so prevalent in our clients' lives. And I find that they do want to share what's going on. And that's such a great way to get a client, I think, even more excited about their experience, that they can now share it with others. And I think
Mm-hmm.
excited clients are the best word of mouth marketing you can ever have. And I don't know if you have found this, but I have found that the clients I tend to like the most when they refer their friends are similar to them. So I tend to really
Yeah.
like their friends that choose to work with me as well. So I mean, amazing to be able to have that social media marketing, get the excitement there, and then hopefully drive more business to you with other
Yeah.
like-minded families or couples that are looking for photography.
Yeah, and that is so powerful to also use in your own marketing because you can like I always post the photos of the clients I love the most, like the personality types,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
Yeah.
that is what others can relate to in who are my dream clients. So that is also something to be mindful of to think about the photos you are posting and the stories you are telling because they are the ones that people can relate to and get drawn to and end up wanting to book with you. So what you post is what you're gonna get requested for as well.
Mhm.
How would you say most people find you, like, outside of referrals? Well, I mean, outside of client referral, like, like we were just talking about.
Yeah, I feel like for the last couple of years, it's been my website and Google
Mhm.
and Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like the fact that you snagged the Arctic photographer is like amazing because I've got to imagine that like for SEO and for people specifically looking for that, that's got to be just a fantastic marketing just to have that already in like the keywords. They're already there in your name. So I think that I would imagine that probably helps as well, it being able to choose a name that is keyword friendly.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I feel like the word Arctic also kind of represent my photos and the photos I take in different weather conditions. So
Mhm.
it's not like always picture perfect or, the golden glowy photos, but it's like
Mhm.
everything we have here.
Mhm. That's so good. Okay, so you've talked about mastering composition in lighting situations. So for photographers that are just starting out, what are some foundational tips to improve composition regardless of the lighting conditions?
Yeah, so there are a few things you can do, but the most important things for me, I think, is to create more depth in your photos. And you can create more depth in your photos by placing your clients or your subjects far away from the background.
Mhm.
So try not to place them directly in front of a tree because that is how a photo will turn more flat. And especially if it's cloudy weather, then it's going to be
Yeah.
even more flat because of the even light. So it's always a good idea to create distance and to create depth in the photos to elevate the composition some
Mhm.
more and to make it more like visually engaging.
Mhm.
And then also another important thing to think about is to be mindful of the cropping for your photo. So if you're doing like a full length photo, try not to crop off the top of their head or their feet. And I always stand on a bit more distance to my subjects and then I can crop the photo tighter later if I want to.
Mhm.
But that
Mhm.
is how I make sure to not like lose the top of the head or the feet. And
Mhm.
then it's like a lot of things you can do with composition to elevate your photos. But for manual settings, especially, I like to keep it really simple. I'm not a tech guru or I don't spend a lot of time checking my settings and
Uh-huh.
being my camera.
Yeah.
So I like to keep it simple.
Mhm.
So what I always do with my settings is I set the aperture first based on the number of people I have in my
Okay.
photos.
Yeah.
And then and then after that, I set the fastest shutter speed I can without, getting the photo too dark
Mhm.
to get sharp images and to avoid that motion blur, that slight blur. It's kind of
Yeah.
annoying
Mhm.
to see later.
Mhm.
So with a
Mhm.
fast shutter speed, you can get those sharp images. And then I raise the ISO only if I need to. And one thing that I always do is I set the white balance manually with Kelvin.
You do?
Because
Okay.
yeah, I
Yes.
do. Because I feel like the auto function is really good, but I have experienced that it changes a bit even in the same light. So
Mhm.
Yep.
when it changes in the same light, you have to use more time in editing to, tweak the photos.
Yes. Definitely.
So by setting the white balance manually with Kelvin, you can like batch edit the photos later much quicker. So that is
That's
also a
really
fun
good.
thing to play around with when you're learning the settings and learning to get the correct skin colors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've done my white balance with a gray card before. Like I used to use the gray cards doing that and honestly just got lazy and stuff. Not even lazy. I just don't think about it. And so when you do it with Kelvin, are you like choosing the Kelvin based on what the weather situation is? Is
Yeah.
that what you're okay?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I'm not using a gray card or white card either. So
Yeah.
I'm just like seeing-ish
Seeing
what
what it
kind of
is and
settings
then
I need.
changing.
Yeah.
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 Oh, that's such a, that's actually such a really, really good idea. I'm going to try that next time.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
such a time saver, especially for editing and especially for weddings or, larger sessions. So
Yeah.
that is
That's,
a good hack.
yes.
I really
Oh,
like that.
and then I won't have that like card that I'm always, that was part
That
of
you,
it.
yeah,
It's
I say
like
that you
in
always have
weddings,
to have the card on you.
and it's like, where's the card? And I take the picture and then it just, it is for my brain. It was too much. It was too much.
Yeah.
But then I
Totally
would
fair.
regret it later. Like you were saying, you're editing, you're like, oh, why didn't I use my gray card?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
And I do find that so fascinating how the color can shift even when you do have it like to a specific, setting on there. It's funny, as soon as you said like, you use Kelvin and you switch it to that. I very specifically remember in school learning about the different color temperatures and what they are in Kelvin. And it's like forever cemented in my mind that 5,500 Kelvin is your daylight. And you start with that, and then you can move up or down depending on how cool or warm it is. And like the lights behind me, they operate on Kelvin too. So it's always really funny. I'm like, oh, I get to use my photo knowledge here while I adjust the color temperature of my lighting.
We need like a cheat sheet, like a Kelvin cheat sheet.
A little Kelvin
Do you
cheat
have
sheet.
one?
Yeah.
Do you have one?
No.
Mine was
Okay.
I think mine was literally from like when I was in photo school. Like it was one of the like, photography 101 books that we had
Okay.
to read. And it was like a whole chapter on Kelvin and what to do. But yeah, 5,500 just like stuck in my brain.
Yeah.
See if I
Go
can remember
figure.
it now. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So for your post-production work, speaking about when you need to go through and make all those edits, are you a Lightroom user? Like, what do you use? Okay. Do you cull on Lightroom or, well, yeah, what's your process for after taking the photos? What software do you use for culling and editing and all that?
So I've tried like a couple of different things. Before I always called manually in Lightroom, and then I've tried like several softwares for culling, but now with the Lightroom culling function, I've started using that, and I think it's okay. It's quite
Is it?
okay.
I haven't
Okay.
actually
Yeah.
used it yet. I haven't talked to anybody that has. So I'm curious. Do you it's actually like pretty good or okay?
Yeah, it's okay. I think it's quite basic now, but maybe they'll improve it later. But it is okay for, portrait sessions and stuff. And then, yeah, I edit them in Lightroom. And sometimes if I need to remove objects or do some more fine tweaking, I edit those certain types of photos in Photoshop.
And is your primary focus, would you say it's weddings or is it more portraits? What's your
It's
kind of
more,
primary?
yeah, it's more portraits.
Okay.
There was a time when I did a lot of weddings, but after I got kids, I have two small children now, so I don't want to spend so much time on the evenings anymore
Yes.
out
Yeah.
photographing.
Unless you're going to come on to a random photography podcast, then there you go.
I don't mind that.
It is really interesting how I feel like having kids can definitely change what your priorities are when it comes to your work and how you need to adapt in order to just really have the life that you want to when you have kids and to be there for them and to, like you said, that the evenings, my kids have a really hard time if I'm not home for bedtime. So needing to kind of, build that time into the schedule. And you're right, like weddings definitely are not conducive a lot of the times when especially if you've got small children.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what is your favorite type of portrait then? Like, do you love working with, adults, couples, newborns? What's your favorite portrait to do? Do you have one?
That was a really good question. I haven't really thought about like what is my favorite, but I feel like I really love photographing like real moments for my clients. So if there's like engagements or if it's a kid's birthday or like special occasions, I just really love to help them get, the beautiful photos of their real life so they can have these memories to cherish forever and to also pass on to the next generations to come.
Mhm.
I always enjoy like looking at my grandparents' photos and their
Yeah.
albums and photos of my heritage. So that is something that is really important to me. And I feel so grateful to be able to help clients to get their memories so they can pass them on for generations to come.
I love that. That is so, I mean, I'm thinking about looking through my grandparents' photos too. Same thing. I love doing that. I loved it as a kid. I still love it now. And I think there's just something that's just so amazing about the tangible, being able to feel it and to just see. And it's not like the most posed pictures of my grandparents that I love the most. It's the ones where they're, on the floor with my mom and my uncles. And, just like a random snapshot of one of them like cooking in the kitchen. And I'm like, this is so cool to just get that snippet of what life was like for them.
Yeah.
So I love
Mhm.
that's what you really enjoy doing for your clients.
And I
think
think
that's
about
Yeah.
too, you learned from your uncle, you said, who was a journalist, correct? Yeah. Do you think
Yeah.
some of
Yeah.
that you picked up from him? Because it's a
Yeah,
similar sort of
probably.
like telling a story. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. And my family has always been interviewed by production companies and journalists. So when I was growing up, we always had like some sort of media companies around us and
Really?
around our life with reindeer husbandry. So I kind of like
Interesting.
maybe been raised into it a bit.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and then now after getting kids and I've been watching my parents' photos and I've noticed like a big shift from my parents because of my dad's side. They have so much photos and so much videos from their childhood because of all of these journalists and photographers coming to
Mhm.
visit their
Uh-huh.
family. And then on my mom's side, they have like no photos at all because at the time it
Oh,
wasn't really normal to have a lot of photos. So
Mhm.
yeah.
I'm sitting here with like both kind of experiences. I'm so grateful to
Mhm.
have all of these photos with my dad's family to look on. And then I would really wish to have some more photos of my mom's side of
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
family. And that is also like, that's also become a really big part of who I am as a photographer and
Mhm.
why I want to do photography and why I want to work with portrait photography. And,
Mhm.
Yeah.
to really be able to create so like such a safe space for my clients so they can be themselves because that is also something I've learned that for a client of mine to really truly love their photos they have to be able to be themselves.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so that is like our job as photographers to create the space for them to let their guard down and to allow themselves to be fully seen as they are.
Mhm.
So it's all about like attracting the right kind of clients for you, who you vibe with, and also the way you communicate with your clients in a way so they can feel more comfortable and more
Mhm.
safe and less nervous. And it's like a whole cycle of
Yeah.
things to get the
Yeah.
perfect photo.
Mhm.
Yeah. And did you experience that with the production companies you said that were around? Did that make your family feel more comfortable? Or did you
Well,
not experience that?
I think there are like several aspects of this because my dad especially and my family they're very like outgoing people.
Okay.
We're used to having, journalists and photographers around us. So some of them have been really great at,
Mhm.
creating the space for us to be ourselves and all of that. And others are not. So I also like experienced to be in front of the camera and to
Mhm.
see like or to feel like how people make me feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like there's nothing like having that experience yourself to really shine a light on, okay, here's what my clients are coming into it feeling. And um, I think that, I mean, I make my family do photos every single year. They can't escape it. And it is amazing putting yourself into that client space as opposed to the photographer space and figuring out all the different things that you need to get done. And then, I'll realize as I'm going through it, like, oh, this is a gap I have in my photography business. I really should have this that I can address with my clients. And okay, let me go ahead and put that now into the,
Mhm.
intro email or in the follow up leading to their session. So I find that it's really valuable to be in front of the camera, just to
Yeah.
have that experience too, to see what you like when a photographer works with you and what they're giving you, and maybe the things that you're like, oh, I want to take what this person's doing and incorporate that, or oh, this person wasn't as good about this aspect. I want to make sure that I give my client a different experience.
And
Yeah,
I think you
definitely.
also touched on a huge aspect of photography is how you feel. Because I've always said that you can have the most technically correct photo, and if your client remembers back on that time and it's not a good experience, they're not going to love it. That's the biggest point, is when you as a photographer can make your client feel safe, like you were just saying. And I'm sure that's a huge part of why people keep coming back to you and using you. And I think it's beautiful that you do that.
Yeah, definitely. That was one hard lesson I had to learn. I remember when I started out as a portrait photographer and a family photographer, I had this family coming in for a mini session, and it was in a studio, and the photos were technically okay. They were good, they were
Mhm.
fine, they were pretty. And then the mom said to me that she didn't love the photos. And at first I was like a bit shocked, or like, what?
Mhm.
I thought the photos were great. And then, after being disappointed for a while, I asked her what was the reason she wasn't so happy with the photos. And then she told me like she was so stressed out that day.
Mm.
And so
Yep.
so when she's looking at her family photos, all she thinks about is the stress that was, in her head, like
Yeah.
coordinating the family and getting everyone ready and, aiming for the perfect family photo.
Mhm.
So I really had to learn that the way they feel before the session and when they come to the session is so, so important to
Mhm.
Yeah.
get, photos that they will actually like and love.
Yeah.
So it is really important to prep your clients, and especially with family photos and with kids, to let your clients know that you don't expect perfection from them, or you don't
Mhm.
expect the children to behave, or,
Yeah.
in our space, we let kids be themselves. We let kids be kids,
Mm.
and we create, the photos either way. So it's all
Mhm.
about reassuring the parents and the clients that the photos are going to turn out beautifully. They don't have to be perfect. And we're here for the
Mhm.
real moment.
I love
That's so
it.
good. So good. Okay. I've got my last question for you, which is the same question that we ask every single person we interview. And I love hearing the answers to these so much. So I want to know, looking back, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently in your career?
I feel like I want to say a lot, but the truth is that I wouldn't be where I am today if I wouldn't have all of this experience in my
Uh,
baggage of becoming a photographer, and walking the steps and doing the mistakes and all of that, because I feel like every bad experience is kind of like a learning opportunity. You can learn to be better, or you can learn to switch clients, which
Yep.
mhm.
which is
Yes.
something I've learned. So I I wouldn't really change much, actually, because I'm grateful for every lesson that I've had, and every tears I've cried in being a photography business owner and all of
Mhm.
that thing. But if there was like one thing I had to say to change, that would have been to raise my prices so much earlier than I
Yeah.
did. Yeah. And really just to realize that, raising my prices or talking about my offers is a service
Yeah.
for the clients. Because oftentimes, we're working with photography and being business owners, it's so personal to us, and we don't really want to, hi, come in, buy my photos and la 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 la. But we are actually doing people a disservice if we're not talking about the offers, or if we're not offering upsells to our clients, because
Mhm.
they're actually the ones that are coming to us because they want the photos. So I
Mhm.
think what I wish I would realize sooner in my career is that I don't do the photos for me. I actually do them for my clients because they want the
Mhm.
photos.
Yes.
That's
And
such a good way to
also,
put it.
yeah, and also to raise prices, that is not it's not scary, actually. And oftentimes what I've experienced when I have raised my prices is that I get clients who value the photos more
Yeah.
when their prices are higher. So that is
Mhm.
also like a hard lesson I've had to learn in my career.
I know. I think that resonates with a lot of other photographers hearing this. It is, I think, really scary when you make a jump like that. And I think you're just afraid that people won't come with you or that
Yeah.
you'll have to find a whole new set of clients. But like you said, there is so much to be said about when you raise your prices, the value goes up and you would just attract a different
Yeah.
and that client sees what you do and wants that and is willing to pay that price to get the service that they want.
Mhm.
And I love that you mentioned that we're doing a disservice if we don't talk about what we offer because they are coming to us. We're not typically cold calling
Yeah. We're
our
not threatening
neighbor
them to
or
take
somebody
to
down the
come.
street.
Yeah.
Okay? You're not just walking along the sidewalk and like, you will
Yeah.
be my client. Here's what you need to do. Here, be force feed it to you.
Yeah.
They are coming to us, and you're right. Making ourselves smaller or making what we do seem more insignificant is not going to grow our business, and it's not what we're providing to people.
Yeah, and there's always going to be clients in every price range.
Yeah.
And one thing I remember when I was pregnant with my first child, I was so scared of not having clients when I'm going to come back from maternity leave. And
Hmm.
then I remember I had an older photographer. She's a mom. She has, I think, 4 kids or something. And she told me, like, do not worry, clients will be there when you come
Hmm.
back. Like, they will be there. So, and that was really good to hear that somebody have, been pregnant and
Yeah.
been in maternity leave and the clients are still there. So the clients are always there. So the point is just to attract and get the right ones that you vibe with the most.
Exactly. Yes. And then nurture that client relationship as
Yeah.
you do so well and what you've shared with everybody. So
Mhm.
thank you. Can you tell our audience where to find you on social media and what your website is?
Yeah. Yeah, so my Instagram and TikTok is the Arctic Photographer, and also my website is thearcticphotographer.com.
So good. I love this. Um, uh, Audience out there, go do yourself a favor and check out her. I haven't actually gone on TikTok in forever, but on Instagram, I just love all of the different
Mhm.
educational pieces that you share with photographers on there. I think the reels that you create are really beautiful. And I think that our audience would find those really just very interesting and valuable to
Mhm.
just take in and learn from. So definitely pop over there and check out Ánne Kátjá stuff because it's beautiful. It's so good.
Yes. And I do want to share. So if you are curious about Anne's name, we've pronounced it two different ways, but we talked to her beforehand. And so Amanda, are you pronouncing it in the Sami way?
Yes, or at least doing my
Okay.
best to.
Yes. And then I'm pronouncing it the English way that she said we could pronounce it. Because I have said your name two different ways. I just thought that was like an interesting, just something interesting for y'all to know when you're listening to this. And so I thought we need to add that in there. So they're like, what is her name?
Like, why do
But
they
you
keep
did
calling her by
yes,
two different
but
names?
You did say that you
I know.
do
We got
go
her
by
permission
Anne.
that we can
Yes.
call you both.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I love both. So
Yes.
Well, thank you again so much for
Yes,
agreeing to
thank
come on with
you.
us with the time change and everything and just, agreeing to come on in the evening
Mhm.
when obviously you've got
yeah.
littles. So thank you for taking the time out to come do this. We
Yeah.
really
And
appreciate
thank you
it.
for having me. I really love talking about embracing the weather and all of the possibilities and opportunities you can have. So thank you so
Yes.
much for having me today.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you came on. Really
Yes.
enjoyed it.
So, Photo BFFs, pop over to Instagram and start following the Arctic Photographer. And then, if you haven't yet, please follow us too over at The Edit Weekly. And then, if you're on YouTube watching this, please subscribe and like so that we can bring you more amazing content from wonderful photographers from all over the world. So, thank you all again. And we are so excited to see you for our next episode in 2 weeks. Until then, we'll catch you later. Bye.
Okay, Photo BFFs, if you have not subscribed, do that right now so you never miss a new episode. You can also find us at theeditweekly.com where we have free resources and downloads for you to help grow your photo business.